Sports Podcast. I'm your host. I'm the Big Rican. And yes, if you look to my immediate right, that's my whatever. In the man in the middle is the half of the greatest battery in Brush High School history, if I may say so myself. Mr. John Rice, the sporting Sith, as last week we did his version of the 12-team playoff, and I got to tell you, I told you this on the air on your show, John, and I'm going to tell you tonight, I still think they should do it your way.
Hey, I'm still hoping. There's still hope.
And, of course, next to John is another member of the Charles F. Brush High School class of 1996, the other half of the wise guys, my co-host in crime, as it were, Mr. J.C. Blue Note, James Cornidian. James, I appreciate you jumping on tonight. I understand that this is supposed to be two Michigan fans, a hater and a Buckeye fan, so hopefully Willie can get on. If not, I will have to deal with a Team Up North fan and you. So...
until he gets here, if he gets here, I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Okay. You know what, John? He warned us he was cracking jokes all night.
Hey, that's all good.
So we are here to talk about something that is less than 24 hours away, and that is the 2022-2023 edition of the College Football Playoff. As you see, I got my CFP hat on tonight, and of course, I am rocking the scarlet and gray for the late game. But let's talk about game number one. So I talked about a Team Up North fan, and that is you, Mr. Rice, in the middle. You guys get TCU, a scrappy team out of the Big 12 who did not win a conference championship. But something we didn't talk about really on your show, there's only two conference champions in this thing.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a big reason why I hope I can't wait till they go to the 12 team. I like I said in my show, I still have a couple tweaks how I would handle it as far as the top six and the bottom six. But other than that, I think once they finally do move to 12, that'll be where it's at. But yes,
I agree.
Tomorrow there are only two conference champions.
But again, as we talked about on yours, and Jim, you and I touched on this a little bit too, we think they got it right this year with the four teams that are in there. I think for twice. I think the first year, and I was going to be the real wise guy and wear my 2014 national championship hat with the gold lame underlay, which is the most obnoxious thing I've ever seen. Only Nike. So let's dive in, John, and let's talk about your Big Ten champion Team Up North, the Michigan Wolverines, against the TCU Horned Frogs. And I'll tell you what, the one thing I'm getting out of this game is if Michigan can do what they did all year, which is control the lines of scrimmage, this is going to be a pretty – I'm not going to say it's going to be an easy game because TCU knows how to play these games where they come out of nowhere and just beat somebody they really shouldn't be beating. But this should be something they can handle by playing bully ball. Are you on the same page as me, or do you think they're going to need more to JJ to get this done?
No, I believe that they have to control the clock. They have to keep TCU off the field. They have to pass the ball when they want to pass the ball, not when they have to pass the ball. Okay. If they just run, keep TCU off the field, they have less opportunities to score. Albeit TCU did come from the Big 12, which they don't know how to play defense at all anyways. So it will be interesting to see TCU up against one of the better defenses in the country.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting for me. I mean, I'm not going to get to watch this one. We actually have some New Year's Eve plans. Actually, I'll probably be listening to both games because I cut the cords today. I'm back to just streaming. I am so excited. Jim, real quick, it's even cheaper than I thought it would be because I got that discount you were telling me about.
Oh yeah, the program. Yep.
Yeah. So I'll tell you about it when we get done. I'll tell you exactly how much that is now because we all pay bills here. You're gonna like this.
Very much. Yeah.
So Jim, you're more of the K-State fan because you love their quarterback. I don't say K-State fan, but you're more of
TCU.
in tune with TCU. Excuse me.
Yeah, Max Duggan.
Max Duggan. Is Max Duggan the type of quarterback that can give this defense fits?
Absolutely. One of the few things I actually do have written down here is I mean, because this is the one that certainly between the two, I'm looking more forward to for a pure enjoyment standpoint for watching good football. Because I've followed Michigan all year long, just to try and actually see if they could kind of piggyback off the success coming out of last year, and then TCU, everyone's Cinderella. If you're a Michigan fan, your worst nightmare is the longer that Max Duggan's on the field. That's how much I think he can flip this game.
I agree with you, and that's the one thing that really the one thing Jim Harbaugh team since he's come back to college have had a problem with, John, is that mobile quarterback. I think 2018 in the horseshoe was an absolute aberration because that no one saw that coming. That was just what the hell happened. But JT Barrett had a lot of success against those teams. Justin Fields had a lot of success against those teams. And of course, I'm coming from the Ohio State angle because unfortunately, that's really all I pay attention to when it comes to college football. Now, one good thing I like about the front seven that Michigan does have is that they can set the edge and they can stop the run. But Dugan's thing is that rollout. I watched some videos on YouTube this week in between, Disney stuff. And dude, I've been off since last Friday.
I'm jealous.
This has been
Yeah,
a great
shut up.
I've been off since 4:00.
I have to use it or lose it, and I get 5 weeks a year. So
Right.
I'm not losing it. But Dugan's favorite thing to do, he likes to roll out. He likes to hit guys on the run. Your secondary did a great job of covering in the game against Ohio State. But the longer a guy can extend a play, that seems to be a problem. Are you a little worried about that? Or do you think your front seven can contain this guy?
I'm not as worried about the front seven containing him as I am worried about the defensive backfield being able to stay in coverage long enough that the coverage doesn't break down behind them. Because I believe the front seven will handle their business and will do what they need to do. One, to stop the run, and two, to keep Dugan from just completely running all over them. My issue is, can the defensive secondary stay on their man long enough, stay in their coverage long enough to be able to make a play when they need to?
Okay. Jim, my other question to you is, Michigan hasn't been really tested by a team this year that knows how to come back from a deficit. The games that Michigan did trail in, they started trailing early, and then they came back by controlling the clock and controlling the tempo of the game. Do you think TCU has an advantage here as a team that has basically made it habitual to come back almost every single week? They know they're never out of a game.
No. Much love to Mr. Rice's school here. The thing is that when TCU comes back, they're coming back on teams that, as John mentioned, are in a conference that don't know how to play defense. Michigan does. So Michigan gets up 2 scores. This game is essentially over. TCU could make a run at it, but TCU doesn't have the firepower, nor is their defense good enough to be able to stop any type of Michigan offense right now.
Okay. So you really think this is a game that if they start and have their way with this is just going to be a pretty quick one, or what's the...
I'm thinking right now the TCU's best shot to win this is they've got to come out swinging. This could be last team with the ball, if this turns into a shootout type thing.
Got you. Okay. Now, John, let me ask you this. I don't know. Are your boys equipped to win a shootout? Because, I mean, let's look at it this way. And I know it's going to sound like a lot of homer talk. They had 5 plays that netted them almost 300 and some odd yards against Ohio State. The other 50 plays they ran, they got 180. So you go from those big plays, which is really, they basically flipped the script on the Bucks and did what they did to everybody this year. It was close game, avalanche, done.
Yeah. Well, whatever game plan they had against Ohio State, aside from that first drive where Ohio State just went right down the field, they need to continue that exact script. And basically, they put up 90 points in the last 2 games against Ohio State, almost.
Yeah, something like that.
So obviously they can score some points against teams that can score some points and play defense, because we know Ohio State can play defense.
At least this year.
My thing is they have to score touchdowns, because we know TCU can score. Michigan has to at least answer or get ahead. They can the red zone. They can't settle for 3s. They got to get 6s. And I think I think if it does end up being a shootout, I think they do have the tools. I think JJ's good enough to be able to kind of answer that call, if you will, about as far as a shootout goes. But they're just so run dominant. They're so run heavy that if they get down a couple scores, yes, they have come back in the past, and obviously they've had one of the better second half, teams in the whole country for the whole season. But you can't see you and just expect to come back.
Jim, hearing what John just said about Michigan and shootout and being able to do it, would you take the ball if you win the toss, or are you going to defer? If you're Harbaugh.
If you're khaki pants, I think you defer, because I think you've actually got to see what TCU's game plan is going to be right out the chute, because I think Harbaugh is a much better counterpuncher than he is. Again, it's the two games against Ohio State. Ohio State went right down, got the first points of the game on touchdowns, and then Michigan just came back out swinging with haymakers the rest of the way. Michigan is very, very good, I'll say, in big games in the last few years, especially under Harbaugh. They're very good at playing rope-a-dope. Let the other guy punch themselves out.
Okay, and TCU is a team that seems to do the same thing. I mean, you have basically contrasting styles that play the same type of game. TCU, not quite air raid, rest in peace, Mike Leach. But, that mobile quarterback down the field, he takes off to get a few yards, as opposed to the traditional Big Ten 3 yards in a cloud of dust that Michigan is. I think this is going to be entertaining. I really do. I think this is going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be better than a lot of people are thinking it's going to be. Because I think if you're looking at the national media, that they're just already penciling Michigan into the national championship game, which I think is a little premature.
I think this will be certainly the more entertaining of the two games.
Yeah, we're going to talk about why you think the other one isn't going to be.
Just wait.
I gotcha, but you're going to leave some things out, and I'll just fill in those blanks for you, brother.
And I'm going to drop the bomb right now. I don't think either game is going to be very entertaining.
Really?
I don't think so. I honestly think that Michigan and Georgia are just that good this year.
I agree, but I think the Michigan TCU game is going to be a little bit more back and forth.
I do agree with that, but I also think that in the long run, I don't think TCU has the depth to stay with Michigan.
Right. This isn't a Texas. This isn't an Oklahoma. A defensive stalwart team. This is, and let's also call a spade, even though I'm getting a little bit ahead here. If USC does their damn job, let's be honest, Mike, you guys are not playing tomorrow.
Oh no, we're playing in the Rose Bowl against Utah for the second year in a row on Saturday.
Well, you're not playing in what we're talking about tomorrow.
Oh no, absolutely. I'd be doing a Rose Bowl preview on Sunday with you, just like I did last year.
Yeah.
So let's get to game 2 then, and let's talk about this, because I know you both call them blowout here. I disagree. Not just because I'm a homer, because I actually went back and looked at some stuff. I actually watched tape on this, and I don't ever do that. But I knew who I was coming on with tonight. And I knew I had to bring something, because a certain number on this triumvirate here, not going to name any names, the one all the way to the other end, was going to piss me off by saying something. Knew it was coming. I've been broadcasting with him for too long not to know that he was going to hit me where he could. So let me say this. Number one, if Ryan Day thinks he's going to run the football tomorrow, he is stone cold crazy stupid. He's not. That Georgia defensive front seven is out of this world. Every single one of them are going to play in the next level. Here's the problem. None of their corners are. As much as people want to punch Ryan Day for bubble screens and everything else, that is how they're going to beat Georgia tomorrow. They're going to get guys open on the edge. Can any of those dudes cover Marvin Harrison? Come on, Jim. Say
you're adorable thinking that
I know I am.
This game.
Hey, and let me tell you something. The hat I was going to wear before? That's the last time they played in this thing against an SEC team in a semifinal that they said they had no chance of beating. And then Zeke went 85 yards through the heart of the South, and we have the first championship in the playoff era.
John, would you like to drop the bomb, or would you like me
Go ahead, John.
to drop to drive the stake first?
Go ahead.
This
You're gonna Hiroshima and Nagasaki me? I don't care.
I'm actually not. I think I'm going to blow up the entire thing right now with what I'm about to say. I think Ohio State has a better chance if they do run the ball and run the ball well.
Really? Even with that front seven?
I do. I think given Ohio State's, yes, Harrison is by far the best receiver in the country, easily. But where's his counterparts?
You're absolutely right. If JSN was healthy, I think everybody would have a different idea of what this game is going to be.
So what I think Georgia's going to do is I really think they're going to play man-to-man.
Double over the top?
With a safety over top.
So I thought.
And they're going to just crap out of Stroud. And they're just going to come after him. That being said, they need to run draws. They need to run screens. And they need to run the ball well. If they run the ball well, look for an upset. If they don't run the ball well, Georgia is just going to blow them out of the building.
See, I think on the other side of the ball, now, again, I don't think Jim Knowles is going to run cover zero every third play like he did at the end of November.
There was also something about that. Harbaugh, he is obviously, and it showed this year with the adjustments he made half times. He is like Jimmy said, he is a great counter puncher. So I don't think Georgia is that good of a counter puncher. I think
I was going to say Kirby's not a good counter puncher.
Yeah.
Harbaugh is.
So with that being said, I think Harbaugh kind of found not a niche, but like found something in Ryan Day's play calling and offense and defense where he was like, I can exploit this. There's a pattern here and I can exploit this pattern. And he did. I don't believe that Georgia has that ability to be able to find a pattern, whether Ohio State runs a pattern or not, and exploit it. They just run a pro style, line them up and run at you kind of thing.
Well, the blown leads in championship games and regular season games should tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, someone made a great point. Georgia only played one defense inside the top 50 all year. One. I'm sorry. And the other top-ranked defenses they played, LSU was like 85. The teams that Missouri was the only one in the top 50. That was the closest game they played, outside of Kent State, who also was just outside the top 50.
They're a juggernaut.
Ohio, huh?
They're a juggernaut, though.
Oh, Kent, absolutely. The alma mater of Nick Saban
for another bowl win today too.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Came back and beat Wyoming.
The MAC.
Josh Allen's got to be pissed. But Jim, and I know a lot of this is you're a hater. I get it. I get it. We've been doing this. Dude, you don't even know. The whole thing with him and I doing the show started because we would argue over him calling them overrated state, and I would just go after him. And I would just hammer him. And then finally we're like, you know what? We need to do this on the air. And we honestly don't talk about the Bucs that much unless we're on this show.
Considering this stemmed out of an OSU podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not always. Listen, the Mets are involved too.
Two things. And one of them, yeah, it was 50%. It was 50% overrated state. And now look what it's become. And it's become a wonderful, wonderful thing you and I do twice a month. I went back and I watched our most recent show last night.
Not last night. No, Willie said he was going to watch the Jersey clip. John, if you haven't watched our take on the NBA City Edition jerseys, I would do so. Don't do it around your older children.
Okay. That's the uncensored show.
Yes. And if you look up what is on the front of the Charlotte City Edition jerseys, you'll understand why.
Oh my goodness. I might have to look that up right now.
I will be clipping what we talked about at the very end of that show. I will be clipping that this weekend.
Oh, here we go. You missed one, by the way.
I can't say that here.
You missed one, by the way. I was watching the one when we had Willie on the first time. and there was a couple of spots. I'll go back and watch it again. This is what I do when I play the Xbox, John. I throw on an old show of ours on YouTube, and I listen to it as I play the Xbox because the announcers annoy the hell out of me.
That's awesome.
And I've done the 12-team playoff one a couple of times too because I want to do some stuff on that. But Jim, going back to let's get this isn't the Wise Guy Show, Jim. No off the rails section on this one. Jim, let's go back to that game tomorrow. And I know you think Georgia's going to blow this team out. Do you think they're going to blow this team out because of Stetson Bennett in that unit or what the defense can do?
3 factors. Number one, just what Stetson Bennett can do. Yes, the defense, namely the front 7, as John talked about. Yeah, you're right. If anyone in that secondary is going to be playing at the second level, it's going to be the fan-controlled league. It's going to be Canada.
They won't play in Canada. It's above Mason-Dixon.
And he throws shade on me because he knows I like the CFL.
Oh, no. I'm throwing shade on them for not going above Mason-Dixon because they can't play in the cold.
And let's also be honest. This is 75,000 people there. What, 55, 60,000 of them are going to be. I understand that yeah, there's going to be a lot of Buckeye fans, but this is
the Peach
still
Bowl's already said it's going to be close to 50-50.
I think it's going to be closer to 50-50 personally.
Even
State just travels well.
Ohio State travels well, but the problem is they're coming home with their heart broken. The only thing that's going to get worse for them is having to spend all that money, go down there, waste a holiday, and then they end up getting a flight on Southwest coming back. Maybe.
I think they got enough money to charter a plane, bro. I don't think you got to get that angry. I don't see why it's got to be that much anger.
I would expect that anger out of me, not him.
John Bones Jones, the New York Yankees, the Golden State Warriors, the Brooklyn Nets, the New England Patriots, the Chicago Blackhawks, Kentucky men's basketball, Alabama football, Conor McGregor, the overrated State Buckeyes. Those are teams that you pay to watch go out and get their clocks cleaned.
What are you, Arya Stark with a kill list? What is going on?
That's just what I was able to come up with in the 2 minutes before we went live. I had 30 more written down.
Add the Browns.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what you missed, Jim. When Willie said, name me a mediocre pitcher, we were talking about that when Trevor Bauer got suspended. And I said, Garrett Cole.
That's right. Okay, I will find that.
May 14th.
Writing it down now.
I hate Garrett Cole as much as he hates Ohio State. I got to tell you, John.
Wow.
Well, Willie, who also wants to talk to you about the stuff you do outside of this, we were talking about Bauer, who obviously his thing got undone or he got reinstated, and it was when he got suspended. He goes, he's going to get another chance. I mean, it's not like he's name me a mediocre pitcher, and I started chuckling. I just went Garrett Cole. Jim rolled his eyes so hard I thought his head was going to fall off, and Willie's just like done. That's the night he told me he was going to call me Ric Flair because I'm the dirtiest player in the game.
And knowing how you are about the Cleveland sports team, I'm surprised you didn't say Chris Sale.
No, I can't stand him. Guy made $300 million on Spider Tack. Anyway,
2 wheels. We're doing wheelies.
Listen, our records of Flintstones. Let's go for it.
Yeah, that's true.
So I understand your hate, but I actually honestly tried to take a step back and find an argument against my homerism. And I found it, and it's that front 7 on the defensive side of the ball. Because we all know Ohio State's defense is good this year. It's much improved from a year ago. That really got shredded a bunch last year. I think this defense can play with Georgia with what they do, because what Ohio State did outside of 2 big plays against Michigan and all year is stop the run and limit the amount of plays down the field. 5 big plays killed them in their last game. With the numbers, I don't know if I gave them on here or before. but 55 plays and 180 some yards as opposed to 5 plays and 300 and some. If they can limit the big plays, and Georgia's not the most talented on the outside either on the offensive side. This is a defensive-driven team that has a complementary offense. It almost reminds me of the early Brady Patriots, where the defense is the top 5 unit and the offense is good enough to score points when they need to. No, I don't. John, have you watched any Georgia this year outside of just highlights?
I did watch one game. I don't remember what game it was.
Was it Tennessee?
It might have been Tennessee, because Tennessee was coming off that high right after just beating Alabama.
And they were the number 1 team in the first playoff.
Yeah. And then Georgia just came in and said, "Not so fast, young man." So I was like,
they did the league course on them.
Stealing a little bit of line there, but it was the absolute truth. They said, "Hold on, you're still the stepchild in this relationship," and it's still Georgia and Alabama, and then Tennessee is still in the back burner. So, but they're giving it to Clemson right now. I mean, I think it's 14-0 against Clemson. So,
is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but also remember Clemson's playing Cade Klubnik in his first bowl game start.
No.
His first start ever.
Oh, okay.
This is Klubnik's first start ever.
Interesting. Well, we'll see how it ends up, because I can't even think of his freaking name now. The coach from Clemson,
Dabo
Swinney. He knows what he's doing. So,
Dabo's doing this to set up next year.
No, I'm sure,
because DJ is going to have to transfer.
He's already entered the protocol
or the portal. Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys are calling a Georgia win, and I'm going to say this. I think Ohio State got their best draw without having won the Big Ten and going in as the number 2 seed and pulling a TCU in this game. Look, not for nothing, Georgia's never seen an offense like this. And the last time I said that was 2002, and the words were, Miami's never seen a defense like this. I was pretty pathetic that night. Is that the word? I think so.
Sounds pathetic, yeah.
You're the journalist, dude. I always ask you these questions.
I thought you said pathetic. I'm sorry.
Well, Miami was pathetic that night. No, I think not only me, but a lot of the media is pulling for an upset. And I find it funny I'm saying that when it's ESPN because of what that final would be.
Well, of course they do. Come on. Can you imagine a rematch of the game in the national championship game?
You mean the highest watched game in college football this year?
You thought the Georgia-Alabama game was, big? Come on. This
I'm glad you brought that up. I had a theory about this. I think that would be the absolute worst thing that college football could imagine.
Why?
To be able to get that kind of rematch, because Georgia, Alabama is getting there, but it's not there. Ohio State and Michigan has always been established. It's going to be very highly rated at the start, but the thing is what if the Bucks start pulling this out? They're going to see the ratings start here, and then if, let's say, Ohio State's up 2 scores, 3 scores or something at the half, by the fourth quarter, the ratings are going to be down there because there's going to be 75% of that national audience tuning in to watch the Buckeyes get the snot kicked out of them for the second time in 6 weeks.
I'm not saying
that's going to happen, and those ratings are going to dive.
But if you notice all the championship games, with the exception of the first one, because it was the first one, and it's not Ohio State, it wasn't Oregon, it's because it was the first playoff national championship game. They've all done that. Even the close ones have done that. The Bama Clemson game, the first one, did the same thing. The ratings went down. The ratings were okay, down, and when they saw it was going to be a 1-score game, they went back up.
I also credit that to time.
Yeah.
I mean, you started these games. Let's be honest here. This is college football. NFL, they have it on such a tight ship. They get you in and out in 3 hours with more TV timeouts than they have in college, and 2-minute warnings. and things of that nature. So why can't college get it down to 3 minutes or 3 hours? I'm sorry. You're looking at 4-hour games on an average. And you start
in the playoff, absolutely.
Yeah, you start the game at 8:00 on the East Coast. Nobody's staying up till midnight to watch that, especially if what is it? Don't they play it on Monday night?
Yeah.
Championship game.
Yeah.
Yep.
If people like, I mean, I understand the Super Bowl is a Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl is a little bit different. I think once the 12-team playoff comes into play, and you have more teams with a bigger viewing audience across the nation, I think that national championship will be much more touted as far as viewers. But this year, even if it's Michigan, Ohio State, you're going to have people tuning in across the country because it is a rematch of the game. Whether they stay in the third or fourth quarter, that's at that point they don't care. They're I don't think it's going to matter if their ratings drop in half in the fourth quarter. I think they want to start the ratings with the best ratings they could possibly have, and I think they would.
I'm interested to see how much of a nosedive the ratings are going to take tomorrow, regardless of what the outcome of the game is at that point, because everyone's going to be ready to watch the ball drop and having to get to wherever.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing too. Because I have always said that the playoff game should be on January 1st, no matter what bowl they're in.
I have no problem with them being tomorrow. I have a problem with them being so late tomorrow. Move them back like the wild card games. Put one game at 3, put one game at 6, and then everyone can get to wherever.
I would have done a typical Saturday tomorrow and done a noon and 4:30.
I don't know if I'd really want to do that early.
Plus, you got to figure the early games on the West Coast.
I'm just surprised they have the Fiesta Bowl playing the early game, and they have the other one playing the late game.
I'm not. It's the higher touted matchup when Ohio State played Clemson.
I don't disagree.
When Ohio State played Clemson,
timing aspect of it.
Oh no, I hear you. But when Ohio State played Clemson in the 2-3 and 20 after the 2019 season, that was the late game. They're doing these times based on the matchups. They're not doing them based on where they are, which is again stupid. Because in the first one, if you remember, they kept the time slots right because the Rose Bowl was the first game and it was at 4:00 when you get those beautiful sunsets at the Rose Bowl. So you still got that, even though it wasn't a Big Ten Pac-12 matchup, Pac-10 matchup. And the Sugar Bowl is always after that. It'll even be that way in the first. The non big time bowl games that have become a part of the New Year's Six, they are flexing these things like the NFL flexes Monday night games and Sunday night games, depending upon the matchup. Who was the other one that year? Was it Alabama? It was LSU and Oklahoma in the Peach Bowl, and they were the early game. So that was Joe Burrow's year with that record-setting offense. And was that the year Kyler won the Heisman? Or was that the year after? That was Jalen Hurts. That was the year after.
Yeah, because Kyler was 18.
That's right. He was the year after Baker. So you had Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow in one game, but then you had Clemson and Ohio State in the second one. So that's why they played the Fiesta Bowl late. I don't agree with it. I agree with you, John. I think the early game should be, because I want to go to bed, should be the Peach Bowl. And the late game should be the Fiesta Bowl. Listen, he likes to be up early. You know John.
Let's also be honest. The Peach Bowl really has only kind of gained notoriety and steam in the last few years when they've been trying to shoehorn it into the New Year's Six. It was always the early game because it was a meaningless, like third in the SEC and like fourth in the ACC or something like that. Shoehorn. It was the game that you put on while you were getting dinner ready.
This was the game that the Peach Bowl was basically, if Georgia was garbage but was bowl eligible, this is the one they were playing in because it was in their backyard.
That or the Gator Bowl, which they actually threw on tonight, and the Gator Bowl is another one that they shoehorned in.
Who's in the Gator Bowl?
It was Notre Dame and South Carolina.
Oh, who won?
Notre Dame came back and won. They were down, I think, like 24-0 in that game and came back and won like 45-38, something like that.
Oh.
Hey, John, speaking of not playing defense. Insanity.
Yeah, 45-38.
Yeah. Look at you on it, JC.
I'm just upset that I missed the Pitt and UCLA game at the office today. I could have put it on CBS in the background. I was so slow.
I heard Pitt came. Did Pitt come back and win that game?
Yes, it was. I think that was like 38-37 or something.
See, Maryland won a shootout 16-12. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I did.
Oh, the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. Really?
37-35. Pitt came back and won that.
37-35.
Yep.
Oh, you beat. Oh my God, I love it. Yeah,
Maryland over NC State, and NC State apparently
Ooh.
NC State's broadcaster got suspended indefinitely too, but we won't talk about that here.
God, no, we can.
I didn't hear. So
he talked something about all the illegals.
Oh boy,
he was there. He had mentioned the Fiesta Bowl and all the illegals out in the desert. I'm like, oh my God,
wow,
you're gone, bro. You're gone. You're as bad as Brenneman.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you get the Tom Brenneman Award.
Jim, that's what we got to do. We got to have a Wise Guys Award show.
We do. You know what? That actually should lead off that should lead off the new year. Or do we put it in the February episode?
No, we lead off the new year with this. That's my birthday episode, since I can do what I want because it's my birthday.
We can call them the Wisies or something.
Oh, John, you are like the plethora of ideas here, man. All right, so let's go over the few different options we have for the final. Let's go over the one most people think is going to happen: Michigan and Georgia, a rematch of last year's semifinal, where Georgia basically took it to your boys. And look, they may happen to my boys tomorrow. I may be able to commiserate a little bit. I don't think this Georgia team's as good as last year. I don't think the defense is as good. But the last thing I personally need is you guys winning a national title. So,
but like that's always been such an enigma to me, is the hatred that Ohio State fans have for the rest of the Big Ten. It's
not
like
all of it.
Most vast majority of Ohio State fans, if Michigan has a chance to play Georgia, Ohio State will never root for Michigan. If for some reason, hypothetically speaking, Georgia or TCU ends up facing Ohio State in the national championship game, you would have all of Michigan cheering for Ohio State, because the reason is when Michigan and Ohio State are both good, it brings so much to the table as far as college football is concerned.
I agree with you. Now, will I tune in if that's the game that happens? No, I won't. Will I be pulling for your boys because of the friends and family I have that happen to be fans of that team? Absolutely.
And given everything that I've been doing the past, 20 years of my life, with my other job, I watch football now as just with a different lens.
Well, yeah,
so to speak. So I'm not the same diehard fan I used to be 15, 20 years ago. I'm just not. Do I still love Michigan? Absolutely. Do I still want them to be successful? Absolutely. Do I still want to pay the Ohio State graduate, for the pizza that he dropped off on my front porch? Absolutely. But at the same time, I watch the game with a different lens. So yeah, we can be tongue in cheek all we want here, but at the end of the day, I just want good football. And
yes,
I'm sorry, Georgia, Michigan is the primetime grade A beef of that equation.
You may be absolutely right. And
can I pose a question to both of you? Individual question here. John, let me go back to your argument here for a moment about Michigan fans cheering for overrated state to satisfy with the Big Ten.
I'm taking shots tonight.
Could it be is that because of the unlikability and the bandwagon nature of a lot of the Buckeye fan base? Is it the elitist mentality that makes them so unlikable with this?
I honestly think it really started snowballing with drum roll, please. Tressel.
I was just thinking when you said drum roll, please. I was thinking Tressel.
I don't like the man. I think he's a cheat, but that's just my opinion. And I could be totally off. I could be completely off. The man could be a total dreamboat if you meet him. But at the same time, it's like I just there's something about him that's just a little. I don't even want to say edgy. I kind of want to say sketchy, and it really leaves a bad taste in the mouth of the rest of college football.
Because they dodged sanction, giving out trading in pants that match the color of my jersey.
Exactly. There was a lot of stuff going on there, and it started with him at Youngstown State. Honestly, they got into a lot of trouble at Youngstown State when he was there. So this is not like a one-off, So there's definitely a pattern there with him and his responsibilities or lack thereof.
Mike, question to you now. Let's say that we do get the Michigan Georgia final, and let's say Michigan, does end up hoisting the trophy at the end of the year. Would this sting that much more for you, knowing the fact that they'll have been in the playoff the last 2 years, and which is half as many as you guys have, and yet they've got as many national championships as you guys will have had in this playoff?
Yes and no. It'll sting because of them hoisting a trophy. Now, my issue is never been a huge fan of Jim Harbaugh. Whether it's the pros, college, doesn't matter. Will it sting? A little bit. Because, yeah, they won a championship. We didn't. That'll sting there. But I will say this, and it's something I've looked forward to because I didn't get to live through it the first time. They hoist that trophy in a couple weeks, the 10-year war is going to escalate, and it's just going to get fun. And and that's where I fell in love with it. Because you remember, guys, I didn't grow up with this. I was 14 moving there when I met you guys.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what's with the ever, the all-in fan of the Mets thing. I get. I never bothered to ask you on a Wise Guys show, what's the infatuation with the Buckeyes, because you were not in this market, in this fan base for very long. When I knew
you drank the Kool-Aid.
First Ohio.
John, I tend to agree. That's what I find a lot of Buckeye fans are. It's drinking the Kool-Aid and bandwagoning.
You've seen what I look like. I could make the Kool-Aid. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
No. You sure this isn't a Wise Guys show?
It really should be. Well, listen, you've taken a lot of the stuff from Big Rican that you've done that we did together and labeled it Wise Guys and threw it up on the thing. Do it again. Who cares? Do it again. But it's on my personal Facebook page, so we can't go Wise Guys on this, okay?
Yeah.
In all seriousness, it was more
bucket list, the three of us and Alex for
on
next
a Wise
year.
Guys episode?
On a Wise Guys.
Bro, I got to go to bed at some point in time. If the four of us got going, that'd be it.
Oh my God.
Bring Bobby on. I don't care. We'd start at 6.
Start at 6.
You want to fight that battle? We've got infants, bro.
I have the monitor right next to me to prove it.
Like that.
Oh, shut up. Anyway. But in all seriousness, moving there, it really didn't start with me until Eddie George's year. And I didn't have college football in New York. College football in New York is
not good college football.
Right.
College football is two things in New York. You ready? It's Army, which hasn't been what it was, busting out Heisman Trophy winners since long before we were ever thought of.
The 40s, yeah.
And it's Syracuse once every 35 to 40 years. You had Jim Brown, you had Ernie Davis, which were pretty close in time. And then you had to wait till Donovan.
Yeah.
So it was coming out there. It was, if you notice the teams I root for, they're normally underdogs. When I moved out there, who was the head coach at Ohio State?
Cooper.
How many times did he beat Michigan in how many years?
I think what, 2-11?
I picked up an underdog,
2
gentlemen.
13.
I picked up an underdog. Because as good as those teams were when he was there, the Joe Germains, the Bobby Hoyings, the Stanley Jacksons, Aaron
Andy
Glenn,
Katzenmoyers.
and the Katzenmoyers, as good as
the
those
worst
teams
starting
were,
quarterback in school history.
yeah, as good as those teams were, there was for every Terry Glenn and phenomenal NFL guy, there was a Tishmunga Biakabatuka who would just shove it up their ass, and that would be it. I picked up an underdog.
Now, to piggyback on this a little bit, I don't think I've never really told my story about how I started being a fan of Michigan. So I was born in 77. Growing up, there weren't a lot of games on national television,
And
nationally
that was
televised
one.
games. That was one of them because they played Notre Dame every year.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Notre Dame always played the night games, against big teams, and it was always Notre Dame, Michigan, Notre Dame, Michigan, Notre Dame, Michigan. And I fell in love with their helmets. I fell in love with their swagger. And it's like, it's 1984. And what do we know about swagger in 1984, So it's like, there was something about them that I just liked. And it wasn't until early 90s that I really realized, oh my gosh, there's this Michigan-Ohio State rivalry that is huge. And you go back to what's his name? I went for 2 because I couldn't go for 3, and Woody Hayes and punching people on the sideline and shit. And it's like that was. I apologize.
You're good.
but like you go back to that stuff, and it's like that was before our time, and then there was a very big lull. I would say the late 70s to the early 90s, like where Ohio State was just non-existent. And so for me growing up, it was always watching Notre Dame, Michigan, falling in love with Michigan, and then realizing later how big of a rivalry this actually was. And at that point, I was too invested in Michigan. I wasn't about to just jump ship and say, oh, yeah, now I like Ohio State. So
because I always remember, Mike, you can always remember when we were in school, John was, one of the guys that was cheering for Michigan, but yet with his standing on the football team, you didn't mess with him.
Okay, John, go first. Let me tackle 2 things real quick. Number 1, John, don't worry about the words you said. In the immortal words of Harry Doyle, you can't say goddamn on the air. Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway. Second thing, Jim, I didn't mess with him because he would tip pitches to people if I did. So there's that.
there's one person that I always told pitches to because he always told pitches to me. And that was the catcher from Mayfield, Joey Leskovic, who's now a Mayfield City cop. So yeah, he was Mayfield's catcher right. When I was brushing.
John, I'm going to have to look him up. I'm living in Mayfield right now.
And we were the only. He was the only person I ever told pitches to, and because he always told pitches to me. So
I just remember you and I one time having the Crash Davis. You shook me off.
Oh, I know. You don't shake me off. You don't know that. Because I'll tell you what, you shake me off once, the next pitch is going to be over the fence because I am telling him the pitch.
Off the rails. Favorite line from Bull Durham?
The mound scene. There's no other answer. The mound scene. When he comes out and he goes, what the hell is going on? Well, and he goes into the whole thing. We need a live rooster.
I'm along the same lines, but it's a different mound scene. Look at that. He hit the bleeping bull. Now he gets a free steak.
No,
I don't know. I was always privy to the ladies' underwear part.
That one, or when he goes, throw it at the bull.
Yeah.
Trust me. And he hits it, and the guy looks, he goes, I wouldn't dig in. I don't know where it's going to go.
I swear to God.
You know what? Speaking of the I swear to God, we were talking about Major League the other night at home.
I didn't know who she was.
I swear to God, that is the exact line. Jim, you need to put this over on the Wise Guys page, okay? So we think Michigan Georgia is going to be the big game. I'm going to bring us back now, guys. I'm sorry.
Yes.
So
Please.
Michigan Georgia is the game that people really would want to see as far as good football. I think we can both agree on that.
I just think it's the best matchup. It's on paper, it's by far the best matchup. I don't think it's necessarily the game that everybody wants to see. I think everybody's heart is more set on wanting to see Michigan Ohio State rematch. But I think for the quality of football that the Michigan Georgia game would bring, I think that's where it's at. And
having watched both teams now, watch some film on Georgia, obviously getting ready for tonight and what I'm going to watch tomorrow or listen to tomorrow, either one. I'm inclined to agree with you. But I find it funny in the second to last year that ESPN will have access to the Big Ten. That game for the championship is at stake. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I like the what if thing. What if ESPN is just trying to get one last big payday out of the Big Ten? Because it's the first year there's two Big Ten teams in this. Every other time there's been two teams from the same conference, it's always been the SEC. So, Jim, you're the one I talk to about this one more often than not, because you and I have made it a couple of shows, a couple of segments, missions to go after ESPN and what they've turned into as opposed to what we grew up on.
Right.
Am I close to right on this? Is that what ESPN's hoping for?
And you know me, I actually wrote a book shortly after we split up at Tri-C about like sports conspiracy theorists. And I think the NFL sent me a letter saying, do not publish this.
You still have it? I want to read it.
I don't think I've got the manuscript anymore because one of the chapters was about how the Patriots' first Super Bowl win against the Rams was fixed because it was right after 9/11.
You went there?
Yeah, it was right after 9/11. They changed the logo. Team named the Patriots wearing red, white, and blue against against a juggernaut coming out all as one. And don't even get me started on some of the calls in the game. It's
Spygate.
Exactly. Yeah. But then again, Spygate wasn't even nobody really knew about Spygate until, a couple of years after that.
Thank Eric Mangini for that.
Right. But yeah, I think I could see, a scenario where they're salivating, hoping that this happens. But there's a difference between blind optimism and realism here. And they're hoping one of these teams gets into the final. What their worst nightmare is a Georgia TCU final.
I think that's every college football fan's worst nightmare. No disrespect to either program, because you got to be good to get here, unless you're Bama and lose to the only top 10 team you play. But I think that's every college football fan's worst nightmare, because Georgia would decimate that team. And it'd be another college football final that nobody watches, especially where it is. It's at SoFi. They just had the Super Bowl there less than a year before that. You want a marquee matchup. Now, a rematch of last year's semifinal, 1 versus 2. That'd be a huge thing to have there. 2 versus 4. Again, with the implications of what the two teams are, those would be massive. But yeah, 1 versus 3 would not be good. 3 versus 4 would be good. I think you bill it as the underdog championship game, which we're going to have a lot more chance at having come 2 years from now.
Right.
And then you have two teams that didn't win their conference championship.
Not the first time we'd have a non-conference champion win a national title.
Oh, I know. Alabama's done it.
Alabama is 2 of the 4 that have done it. There's only been 4.
Ohio State was one, right?
Nope, they won the Big Ten that year. The first one in 1937 was Minnesota, the first year of the AP poll. The next one was Nick Saban's 2010 team that lost to LSU and then got in the BCS championship game.
Oh, I was talking about like the CFP era.
No, Ohio State won the Big Ten that year. The one time they got in outside of this, the last time when they were the first non-conference champion to get in, that's when they got their clocks cleaned by Clemson.
Okay, all right.
That was a 31-0 shutout.
And I think Clemson still just scored 5 minutes ago in that game anyway.
Either that or he got another massage. What? Don't give me that look. You knew as soon as you said it I was going to go there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And then DJ Gungala transfers.
That was a cross between Harry Doyle and Carl Spackler, what you just did.
Well, does anybody know if what's his name? Did Britton Covey go into the transfer portal and go to Georgia? Because if he's playing for Georgia, then Ohio State doesn't stand a chance.
Britton Covey, did you hear what happened to him this year?
No.
Don't start with me. He got added from the practice squad for the Eagles. He's been returning kicks all year. His first game, he didn't know where to park. He parked in the regular parking lot and was tailgating with fans because nobody had any idea who the hell he was.
Oh, well, is that come on? Is that shocking? It's like Pretorius or whatever his name is from what's his name? Wahlberg did that.
Vince Papale.
Yeah, Papale. That's it.
That's a good movie, by the way.
I never saw that.
Very
movie.
underrated. Yes,
it's really good.
I'll have to check that one out. For a football movie, I'm surprised I have never seen it.
It's a Disney football movie, so it's a little different.
No, but real quick to touch on Jim and both of you guys talking about the conspiracy theories and stuff. I can put those to bed right now. There's no conspiracy theories. There's that stuff, as much as it's talked about and as coincidental as a lot of things that happen are. There's really nothing going on behind the scenes. I can promise you that. And I have some pretty decent insider information.
No, and listen, that's just me. It's more my conjecture about, a staple of this rivalry that we are immersed in, you and I, when it comes to college football. It was always ABC and ESPN.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. And I get it. And everybody always wants to have that. They always want to find that little tiny thing that might, assist in their narrative kind of thing. And it's like, oh, did you see this? And did you see that? And did you see this? And then they put it all together and it's like, whoa, time out. Hold on.
Because it gives them justification to say that we got screwed at the end.
Absolutely. And that's kind of those coincidental incidences that are just that. They're just coincidences.
There are very few times that I have not taken a loss on the chin. My teams get beat, I take it. Mets lost to San Diego. Guess what? San Diego played better. Ohio State lost to Alabama in that championship game a couple of years ago. Guess what? Bama beat the piss out of them. End of story. The last 2 years against your boys, John, right on the chin. I can't argue against it.
And then Georgia just smoked us. So it's like,
but you take it on the chin. There have been
absolutely
3 times in my life that I have said a team, actually 2, that I have said a team lost because of BS and what looked to me like just out of the wall stuff. The Fiesta Bowl in 2019, that was a fumble. He took steps. If that was in the end zone and he took 2 steps and the defender's hands on the ball, they're calling that a touchdown, right?
Don't remember the game.
On the field, hold on. On the field, they're calling it a touchdown.
Oh, on the field, most likely calling it a touchdown because pulling back the curtain a little bit, when you have the ability of replay to come in and make things right, you do officiate the plays a little bit differently.
Okay.
A lot of times you'll see really slow whistles. We'll rule a fumble if it's not even close to being a fumble. We'll rule it a fumble just to kind of let the play out. And then a lot of times replay has to come in and fix it. Because there's this, I don't want to say stigma, but there's this big thing about inadvertent whistles and stopping the play when it shouldn't have been stopped. And those are like big time no-nos across the board. And we don't want to be in a position where we're stopping the game for no reason. We want to stop the game for legitimate reasons, and we want to make sure that we get things right. And that's ultimately what it is. And sometimes you just don't have an angle. A lot of times they've been showing a lot of those overhead cameras for either first downs or touchdowns. But what they don't realize is the overhead camera is a little bit behind the offensive line. So now you're looking at an angle from behind the offensive line. So now the ball might look where it might look at a certain spot, but it's because of that angle. It's now more forward than it actually is because of that angle. Or if you have the angle coming back from behind the defense, the ball might look where it's at, but it's back farther than where the ball actually is because of the angle. And sometimes you just don't have the angle, that direct straight down the line shot to confirm things. So,
okay. I would love to talk to you more about that. It just seems fascinating to me, especially in the football end. I mean, baseball, it's pretty cut and dry. I would think, from outside of strike zone interpretation and knowing the infield fly rule. There is a lot more to football refereeing than there is to, other than hockey. And if you can be as entertaining as the guy that Jim loves from hockey, there's that.
Wes McCauley?
Yes.
Best official in sports. No offense, John.
None taken. None taken.
So speaking of our journalist friend, just came across breaking news. Barbara Walters passed away. 2022 is just taking its last bit out of everybody.
Yeah.
That's I just saw that. I literally it popped up on my phone. I went, whoa.
My buddy and I at work were just talking about this earlier today. It's with everything that's come out in the last, 36 hours. I guess 2020 didn't want to go down without a fight. You got Barbara Walters, Trump's tax returns. What's that
Pele.
That Romanian guy getting arrested. Alex Tate,
the social media. Yeah, Tate. Yeah, something like Tate.
The weather in this part of the country going from minus 30 to plus 60 in a matter of 3 days. Yeah.
Do you see that girl, that teenager, the climate change girl?
Yeah, Greta Thunberg. She's
yeah.
So apparently he had a pizza box on one of his videos that declared his location or something like that, and that's how they figured out where he was.
And then they picked up him, his brother, and the cop who was in on it, all within 18 hours or something.
Yeah, all within a day. I know it was within a day.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get a backdrop like you guys got over there. I think I need to pay some people. You know, you guys got producers and stuff and everything else going on. What did we lose you, Big?
No, because it's USB. If I tap it just right, it goes, and it went to the front camera, which makes me look like I look like Deadpool. And so I just had to fix that, and the audio went to the camera again too. So I just fixed that quick. But yeah,
no mashed potatoes.
You know what? Listen here.
And I've never seen the movie. I only got the reference from
dude, seriously, what? And first of all, that was in a different scene, and that was before he looked like that scene that she was referencing. Jim, seriously, you haven't seen Deadpool either?
I'm not a Marvel guy. I'm a DC guy.
Jim, he's never seen the Goonies.
What?
I'm getting that rectified this weekend. Shut up.
What?
I know I said it.
Everything that you've said previous is now just null and void.
Shut up, John. I ain't seen you in 25. You know what? This will be the last time I see you for another 26 years.
And let me guess, you still wouldn't have seen the Goonies.
No, here's the thing. Alex and I gave him crap one night because he hadn't seen The Sandlot, which he watched, and he hadn't seen the Goonies. So
the Goonies finally became available on a streaming service that I subscribed to just last week again. It's like one of those. It's one of those movies like Shawshank or The Matrix,
Blockbuster and grab it.
Hold on a minute. It's in a different section.
You're telling me you couldn't find it in a Best Buy bin for like $1.99?
I don't own a DVD player anymore. Everything I own is digital. And I'm not going to buy or rent something if I'm not going to get around to watching it right away.
Do you have any consoles or anything at the house?
I just got a Switch about 3 weeks ago.
All right, I don't think they play Blu-ray.
No.
And here's if I didn't treat
Finally
my
on Peacock, I'm going to watch it tomorrow before I head over to my buddy's place.
and if I didn't treat my massive movie collection like the Holy Grail and Indiana Jones, they don't pass the front door, which is the Great Seal. I'd have sent it to you by now. Listen, man, I lent somebody my original copy of History of the World Part 1, and I still haven't seen it. It's been 12 years.
Oh my gosh.
The last time somebody lent me a movie, Adam lent me a movie called Hard Candy, and I've never taken another movie from another person again.
I can't say
I've ever heard that movie.
It was Ellen Page when she was like 10 or 12, and it was freaky as hell. It was I guess she was the whole premise was she was posing as somebody as like bait for like guy like picking up underage girls online and everything, and then she flipped the tables on him.
Oh. I'm calling
What's
it right
that dude's
here,
name from Dateline?
The first YZ you give
Chris
out
Hansen?
is to Goonies.
Yeah, you have to see Goonies.
First YZ.
So, Jim, your national champion out of these 4 teams, who you got?
I'm going to go 1-1A. I'm going to take Georgia straight up, but I think Michigan is the only team that actually has a chance to give them a run.
John?
I think it's going to be Georgia, Michigan, and I think Michigan is going to pull it out, likely in overtime.
Only the second time in college football, well, third time, excuse me, in national championship history.
Head Heart
say the same thing. No, actually, they don't. Head says Georgia. Head says Georgia is going to win a tight one tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, Jim. I'm sorry. I can't. With Georgia's deficiencies in the secondary, and if the offensive line can play well, they can take advantage of it and they can score. So I think Georgia can beat Ohio State, and I think the converse is also true. My head says Georgia. I think they're too complete, is what I would say. My heart says Ohio State, and when I usually pick heart, and I'm going to do it again. Listen. We all know it's tough to beat a team in college football twice in 1 year. John, you and I said that when we did your playoff show.
Ask USC.
Yeah. If they beat Georgia, I think that'll be a momentum swing that I don't know. As good of a counterpuncher as he is, I don't know if Harbaugh can counterpunch that.
But would they have enough left in the tank?
Does either team have enough left in the tank at that point in time?
Well, Michigan doesn't have to play Georgia in the semi.
No, they have to play TCU, who knows how to come back from insurmountable deficits.
But Ohio State would have never faced back-to-back competition like that if that were the case.
I don't think anybody.
I don't think anybody would have faced teams like that.
No, not at all. So, John, the Sporting Sith is alive and well. I see.
Well.
I know we were talking your logos.
May the sports be with you.
May the sports be with. Nice. That is wonderful.
Thank you, sir.
And like with the wise guys, Jim, Steph actually started trying to help John put together a logo. She was just playing with it one morning and sent it to me for him. It's a big day for her too. Her mom moved out.
She's not watching me like 2 weeks ago, is she?
No. I think she's asleep. There's a 0 on here. Although that's YouTube. What's Facebook doing? No, it's it was a long day, so she's most likely.
I forgot we were live. I thought you were taping this to post the next day or something.
That was if I did it by myself, because remember,
Okay.
with Restream or StreamYard, you have to be paying for it.
Yeah.
To tape to be done, and I ain't got it like that anymore. So the Sporting says, John, you have some previews coming up, especially one that I want to be in on.
Do you want to join me for the Ahsoka?
Okay, so 2.
What's the other one do you want to join me on?
Oh, Mandalorian season 3.
All right. I can get you on for that.
Oh, I love it. Jim, with the sports note, what's in the hopper, my friend?
Taking our continuing our hiatus from after the Wise Guys show. I'm just burnt out for the year. Just gonna sit back, watch some sports, play some Switch this weekend, and I got roped into. I wanted to take 3.5 days off this weekend. Now that's actually been reduced down to one because now I've actually been roped into 2 different parties in the next couple of days. So yeah, the phone's going on silent all day on Monday, and then after I get home on Saturday. But I'm thinking I might sneak in a Pistons blog after the brawl last night.
Oof.
Another one.
Yeah.
As far as Big Rican goes, preparing for the Big Rican 6-pack, which is the single episode per division in Major League Baseball. Gentlemen, we are under 50 days till spring training.
Wow.
And Carlos Correa still has not signed that contract.
I saw you put that out there on Twitter today.
Oh God. He's going to be a Met. I guess the Giants called them today and they said, no, we're fixing this deal. We're staying in New York. So that'll be done. Practicing for 6-pack. And then I'm going to do a championship game preview.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Met question here.
Yeah.
Are they pulling a Florida Marlins here?
No.
Are they trying to buy a championship? Are they actually trying to put together a dynasty?
They're trying to put together a dynasty because he's not touching the minor league system and he's enriching the minor league system as he goes. Right. If you notice, the Mets have 4 players in the top 50 prospects in all of baseball. They still have all 4. Ronnie Mauricio, Alvarez, Vientos, and Brett Beatty. They're all there. And now with what they're looking to do with Correa, Beatty will end up being the everyday left fielder. That's why he's going to start the year at AAA. And Jim's going to commit mutiny right now, so I'm going to stop. Because he said no baseball till spring training.
No, I don't mind you guys talking about it. I'm not going to comment on it. That's my freeze out.
Because
that's my freeze out.
There's a lot of similarities here to the Florida Marlins of the 90s.
Here's where the similarities end. Here's where the similarities end. Steve Cohen is running this team like a fan.
All right.
Wayne Huizenga ran a team to sell it to make money. Yeah. Steve Cohen's a fan right now. And if you look at what's on the field, that's how a fan would run a franchise.
Yeah, it's like watching a video game and you have the trade clauses turned off.
or you play the show and you're allowed the all-time greats. You can sign them as free agents and turn off the budgets.
Yeah, turn off the budgets. Yeah.
My pitching rotation on mine is Tom Seaver, Scherzer, DeGrom. I added Verlander this week. And who is my 5th? Oh, Ohtani. So but listen, more importantly on a Mets front, SNY still has not signed Keith Hernandez for next season. That is more important than Carlos Correa could ever be. Best booth in the game.
He's doing radio spots for old people pills right now. So,
in the immortal words of Jerry Seinfeld, he's Keith Hernandez. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for tonight. I'm sorry it went a little over an hour, and I'm sorry it went off the rails, John. I know you're not used to him and I yet.
No, it's all good, man. Thank you for having us.
Oh, anytime, man. You guys are the best. You've known me too long for me to try and pull anything. So, so for John and Jim, everybody, thanks for watching or listening. If you listen to this in the back end, because I am going to try and get this up. Have a great rest of your evening. Happy New Year to everybody. And we'll see you in 2023 for a Wise Guys award show.
Film at 11.